This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Season 11, Queenpin 2.0, The Introduction. When the Notorious Five ended, our friends Angela, Lorraine, Spencer, St. James, and Quincy Anders St. James IV were awaiting the delivery of their twins, Quincy V and Isla. Angela's baby sister, Stephanie Spencer Taylor, had attempted an at-home induction, while her husband, Pastor Corey Taylor, was at a church convention in Denver. Q's brother, Donovan Anthony St. James, had been in the Dominican Republic for a little over a month, putting in work to eliminate the fifth family alongside four of the notorious five families. And Q's baby sister, Anya K. St. James Hobbs, and her husband Ron were trying to remain off of the New York City Detective Erickson's radar. Detective Erickson was investigating the disappearance of Christian Daniels, a man who'd been extorting and blackmailing Anya. Angela's two best friends, Lawrence Johnson Jr., LJ, and his wife Regina, were working through a sexual health issue connected to Regina's kidnapping. Benjamin Woodrow Stevens Jr., Woody, and Tru Joy Burton were in Denver at his family's annual vacation. Meanwhile, Q's parents were dealing with an affair and an assassination plot. Pops Andy had fallen victim to a plot orchestrated by the Queen Mother's estranged sister, Jira, and carried out by Pops Andy's ex-girlfriend, India. And Wise, recently released from prison and looking to join Q and LJ's team, successfully ingratiated himself into India's life and uncovered the intricate details of the plot against the Queen Mother. While the storyline of our main characters were on a brief hiatus, we had the opportunity through True Joy, The Middle, and Three's a Crowd to learn more about Woody, Tru, and Salima, their past, their personalities, and their plans for their individual futures. We found out about their familial influences and the impact that the romantic relationships they had in the past had on their prospects for love in the present. We also learned that the Baptiste and Lopez family connection runs deeper than the friendship between the Queen Mother and Manny. Samuel Baptiste was married to Manny's now deceased sister, and she was the mother of Samuel's daughter, Salima, making her the first cousin of Angela and Stephanie. So when Queenpin 2.0 begins, there are only four families left in what used to be the Notorious Five. And there are two women vying for the position of Queenpin. Stephanie is head of the Lopez family, and her cousin Salima is head of the Baptiste family. Unfortunately, in their worlds, nothing ever goes as planned. A meeting was called, and around the table were the heads of the remaining four families: Emmanuel Manny Lopez, Idra Charles, Nigel St. James, and Samuel Baptiste. In position were their right hands, and also at the table was Salima, Stephanie, Tru, Rennie, and Donovan. But the meeting could not begin until the guest of honor arrived, the Queen Bee, Bella Baptiste St. James. This is her show, and they're on her time. 6 months has passed since the Ramirez family was completely wiped out, thanks to the four families, their finishers, and Donovan. In order to really understand why each person at the table is waiting with bated breath, we've got to go back 6 months to the meeting in the park that changed it all. Medea, you cannot just kill people in broad daylight in the park. Let me and my men handle this, Q said. He was trying to cement the plan for how he would draw out the men that the Ramirez family sent to ambush the Queen Mother so that he could prevent them from carrying out their plans. His goal was to draw as little attention as possible, avoid a shootout, and get everybody out of the park alive. Pops Andy had arranged to meet India in their usual spot at Dallas's White Rock Lake Park. And while the area was pretty secluded, it was also a popular location for people who like to take a leisurely stroll around the lake and feed the ducks. And it was a common meetup spot for lovers who wanted to have some public/private indiscretions. So if the Queen Mother started shooting in that park, there was no way to guarantee that there wouldn't be any witnesses. They knew that the men were expecting his mother to show up, since Pops Andy had communicated to India that she knew about the two of them and she had some questions, and their whole little emotional affair had created some turmoil in their marriage. And the men would certainly be in position with the intention to intercept her, or at the very least to follow them when they ended their little meeting in the park. So for all intents and purposes, his parents were walking into an ambush. But little did the Ramirez men know, Uncle Samuel's men were strategically placed all throughout the park, ready to strike. So Q couldn't see any reason why the Queen Mother needed to bust her gun. While he tried to talk some sense into her, she was cleaning her guns. And when she was done and was loading them, she said, "Son, worry about how you gonna clean it all up when I'm done. And I'll worry about taking care of me. At my age, I'm not the least bit worried about going to jail. And if it's my time, it's my time. But I'm not gonna let them fools best me. And I ain't going out without a fight. I'll put a bullet in every one of them first." Q just shook his head and looked at his father, and Pops Andy said, "Don't waste your breath, son. Your mother's gonna do what she always does." The Queen Mother looked at him and said, "Oh, really, Anders? And what's that?" Pops Andy said, "Whatever the hell you want to do, without any regard for what anyone else feels, thinks, or says." The Queen Mother put one of her loaded 45s in the holster on her hip and said, "Well, I tell you what, when you are the target, then we can do it your way. But since I'm the target, hell, since I'm always the target, we'll do it my way. As far as I know, of the three of us, I am the only one who has ever been kidnapped. So with good reason, I'll shoot it out in the park first. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. She slammed the full clip in the other 45 and put it in the holster in her back, and then loaded her .357 revolver, snub nose. She put it in the holster on her ankle, looked at her husband and her son and said, "Let's roll." About 30 minutes after the trio left the estate, Mom Brenda called Angela on the two-way home video and audio intercom and said, "Angie, is Melissa in there with you? Tell her to come in here so we can pray and talk." Angela said, "Wait, she isn't in there with you?" Before they left, the Queen Mother checked her room, the playroom, and in here with me, and she assumed that she was already praying and talking with you. Mom Brenda said, "Oh, Lord. Baby, check the cameras." When Angela checked the cameras, she was on the verge of hyperventilating. She had to take deep breaths and call on Jesus because she could not believe what she was seeing. She immediately called LJ and said, "Bro, where are you?" LJ said, "What up, shawty? Everything good?" Angela said, "No. Melissa is in the trunk of Donovan's car. Pops Andy is driving it, and they're on their way to the meetup." When LJ asked Angela if she called Q to alert him, she said, "No, I don't want to throw him off and make an already stressful situation worse. You know how he is about the Queen Mother." LJ said, "Aye, shawty, I'll handle it." At the park, Pops Andy pulled into a parking spot that was quite a distance away from where they were supposed to meet India. He looked over at the Queen Mother and asked, "You ready?" The Queen Mother said, "The question is, are you?" Folded up in the floor of the back seat like a pretzel, Q said, "Y'all gonna have to at least pretend to be on the same team in order for this to work." He had both of his parents wired for video and sound so that he could keep track of the goings-on while remaining far away from the action, just in case. He wanted the men sent to ambush his parents to think that they had quite a ways to go in order to escape. He also needed enough time to get out of the back seat and into the driver's seat if he needed to react. As the Queen Mother and Pops Andy approached India, he grabbed her hand, and the Queen Mother didn't miss India rolling her eyes. India claimed that this was just about money and that initially she was down because she wanted to hurt the Queen Mother for taking her man 40 plus years before, but she ain't actually want him, and the Queen Mother was finding that hard to believe. India wanted her husband. The Queen Mother thought to herself, baby girl, if any part of me detects that he wants you too, I'm putting a bullet in both of you, and y'all can have each other in the afterlife. When they reached her, Pops Andy said, we're here. Tell us what's going on. India said, we? I thought you were coming alone, Anders. The Queen Mother said, well, he didn't. Now what the hell is this about? India said, there is no need to be rude, Bella. I'm trying to help you. Queen Mother said, really? And were you trying to help me when you were wrapping your lips around my husband's limb? Pops Andy interrupted and said, you said that my wife was in danger. India said, your husband was rock hard and at full attention when I slid my hand. And before she could finish that sentence, the Queen Mother grabbed her by her shirt, pulled her close, grabbed the .45 from her hip, put the muzzle under her chin, and growled, if you can have him, you can keep him. But I think he prefers his women with their heads attached to their bodies. India was speechless. She wet her pants, and tears started involuntarily rolling down from her eyes. She knew the situation was dangerous, but she didn't know that Bella Baptiste St. James was the danger. Before the Queen Mother could put India's lights out, all three heard a man say, excuse me, I don't mean to bother you. The Queen Mother surreptitiously slid her gun back in the holster, let India go, and took a step back and gave the man her full attention. He said, again, I'm sorry to bother y'all, but have any of you seen a 12-year-old girl, light complected, long curly hair, brown hazel eyes, about this tall with a scar over her right eyebrow? She's my niece, and we were over in the playground. I turned around for a second. When I turned back around, she was gone. In the backseat of the car, Q was on alert. He recognized LJ's voice and the description of his baby girl. Pops Andy said, we haven't seen her, young man, but what's her name, just in case we see a little girl who fits that description? LJ said, Portia. Pops Andy, the Queen Mother, and Q immediately knew that LJ was telling them that Melissa was in Donovan's Porsche. And Pops Andy continued by saying, we'll be on the lookout for Portia, and we'll be in prayer that she's found safe and well. When LJ walked off, appearing to continue to look for his missing niece, the Queen Mother looked at India and said, that man and his missing niece just saved your life, 'cause I ain't never pulled a gun that I didn't shoot. Pops Andy said, India, please, just tell us why we're here. Inside, Pops Andy was hoping that India would come clean. He knew his wife, and he knew that India's chances of survival were pretty low, whether she cooperated or not. But cooperation would be her only chance at living through this experience. India looked at the Queen Mother and shakily said, your sister Jira paid me to come here. She wanted me to find Anders, and somebody that she's connected with was gonna find you. Just as the Queen Mother asked if they knew that she was meeting Anders in the park that day, Pops Andy spotted two Hispanic men approaching, one from the left and one from the right. Pops Andy reached for the Queen Mother's hand, and she stepped out of his reach. Pops Andy said, Bella, don't do this. In the car, Q said, Melissa, can you hear me? Getting no answer, he said, if you can hear me, baby girl, I need to know. I'm not upset with you, but I need to give you some instructions, and I need to know whether you can hear me. Melissa said, Daddy, why didn't you go with Grandma and Grandpops? They need your help. Q said, that wasn't the plan, baby girl. I need you to stay in the trunk. Do not open the trunk. Do you understand? Melissa said, but that lady's gonna kill Grandma. At that moment, the shots rang out. He yelled, do not open the trunk. Then he jumped out of the back seat, jumped into the front seat, started the Porsche, slammed it into reverse, and slammed on the gas, just as the trunk opened. Melissa screamed, but the sheer force and velocity of the car moving in reverse kept her pinned to the inside of the trunk. Q screamed, hold on, baby girl. And when he got the car out of the vicinity of the shooting, he slowly pulled over, came to a stop, jumped out, grabbed Melissa, threw her in the back seat, and headed home. All he could do was pray that LJ would do what he couldn't, and that both of his parents would make it out of that park alive.